This is going to be an odd presentation, not a standard one. Not a, I guess I can't say it's not a technical topic, but it's not a geek calculator topic, so it's not really my comfort zone. But this talk came out of a series of discussions with Richard and others, but mostly Richard, who has motivated me to do it. Essentially coming down to, I was looking for such and such a thing, but I couldn't find it. And I search and send a link. And the next day I was looking for a thing, and I send a link. And at one point he said, "How did you find that so quick?" And I said, "I just searched. I didn't do anything special." So it quickly revealed some discussions among some people that led to very different techniques for searching for things. Even though we're all using Google or one or two tools, we're all doing different things. So it led to a discussion of, let's discuss how we search for calculators in the title, but really for other things. The first draft of this presentation I did with nominally calculator topics, and decided after reading it, you get it done and you tweak it for hours and hours, and then you leave it alone for a day and come back and look at it. And I decided it was too calculator oriented. So I changed some of the topics. So they're going to be very non-standard topics used in the examples that we're going to talk about. It will probably reveal perhaps more of my hobbies and interests than is appropriate in a public setting. But you may learn something too.
Now I'm intrigued about what those hobbies are.
Yeah, this isn't going to be embarrassing.
Only some of them will be reviewed. So we're going to discuss them, but I would encourage it to be a group participation topic, not in the sense of everyone talk amongst yourselves, but rather, oh, you just said that doesn't work. I don't know how to make that work. Or, but you forgot to mention the bleh, so that everyone gets the benefit of what everyone knows on this topic. Not that we want to cover it all, but is anyone willing to write down the things that people yell out just so that they're not lost to, well, I guess we have the tapes, don't we? I never thought of that. We got the tapes. Never mind. Going to talk about what tools, websites to use for internet. Again, this is internet-focused searching. Some tips and examples using Google, which is what I use most often. Not an overall fan of Google's data harvesting and advertising policies, but they have a really good search engine. Hey, I used to look for stuff on a certain site, but it's gone. What do I do now? How do I find that stuff? Have to talk about eBay. You can't talk about calculator searching without having some eBay discussion. And the actual searches, which have all been verified, are shown in red. Sometimes to point out exactly the technique involved, sometimes to give you an example that's entertaining to me, maybe not to you, sometimes both. So the tools, everyone knows Google, everyone knows Bing. A lot of people may not know DuckDuckGo. A lot of people think that that's a joke, but it's not. It's a real search engine, and it has unique value. And the Wayback Machine. And I'm just going to touch on what the Wayback Machine is used for and how you use it. Later, I think tomorrow, Jake's going to give you some information about what you can really get out of it. My experience has been getting information off the Wayback Machine is mixed. Sometimes you can see what you're looking for, but you can't get there from here. You can see the link to something that isn't there. Other times, it's very good. So this discussion of what Google is best for and what Bing is best for, absolutely subjective, absolutely opinionated, so there's no correct which is best for what. But broadly speaking, I found these things to be true. By Bing, when I say best for finding things, I don't mean an SR52 battery pack. I mean, I want to get tickets or new shoes or a new purse or something like that. If I want to go shopping, Bing I find generally more oriented towards commerce. If I'm looking for just raw information, I found Google to be more effective at ferreting out stuff. There's no global which one is better or not, but broadly I would say that. Mostly the message there is don't discount Bing as just being a trashy other search engine, which an awful lot of people do, particularly if you're under 30. You would never possibly use a Microsoft web resource for anything because it's all, I would say don't ignore it. DuckDuckGo has a unique value proposition. They do not track in any way anything you do or any of the tracking cookies or any of that.
How do they know what ads to
Well, I
show you?
can answer that question. They don't know. They don't know so much that when you go to DuckDuckGo, it pops up a thing saying you really should use DuckDuckGo as your default search engine. And if you make it your default search engine, the next time you go there, it pops up a thing that says you really should make DuckDuckGo your search engine because it doesn't know, because it didn't keep track. Which is an odd annoyance or a clever marketing thing. I'm not sure where it falls in there. DuckDuckGo also happens to be, curious, how many people have heard of it and or used it? Okay, much more than I thought. Okay, much more. Well, how many do use it? Okay, so good time for interaction. What have you found that to be a better website for?
Not being Google.
Better search engine for than Google.
Not being Google.
Well, the privacy is a unique value. A lot of people charge for that. I use Google all the time as a search engine, but I'm absolutely not logged in whenever I'm there because that information is mine. I'm sorry?
It's not for me that there's anything better. It's you don't get as many DCMA blankouts from DCMA complaints.
Yeah. So, I mean, the privacy, as far as its actual searching algorithms and hits and all that, I don't think it's better per se, but for different reasons, people value the privacy approach that they take. One, from not having focused ads, two, from blocking and all these kinds of things. So it's another one. I would encourage you to use it. Again, a lot of people think that it's not even a real thing. It's just a cute, clever play or something.
You mentioned something really important again. You'll find it on Google on page 40. You'll find it on DuckDuckGo on the 5th listing on page 1. It doesn't sort.
Depending on what it is,
Exactly.
of course. Yeah,
You
for
have
sure.
a better chance of sitting there saying, this isn't going to be pre-filtered and pre-sorted for me, but steer me to a certain place.
And we all get used to using the search engine tools that we use most often, but as I think about it, I never even made a bullet point to talk about. One of the key takeaways today is do use more than one engine. If you can't find what you're looking for relatively quickly, either your searching target is poorly constructed, it's a really obscure topic, or try another engine. And sometimes you may see that, there's a general consensus that everyone's going to come up with the same results, which is totally untrue. I also put in, and I'm hoping that I'm completely wrong here, and somebody could point out, no, you idiot, you're just doing it wrong. The search tool in the museum forum I find to be completely and utterly useless. Has anyone found it to be effective? Is there a trick to using it?
Put in a rare word.
I just can't find anything. Stuff that I posted that I'm looking for when I'm looking. I can't find it.
I've used it several times.
Can you find what you're looking
Seems to
for?
work, yeah.
So sidebar, we'll talk after.
Yeah, but I don't know what I'm doing except
This could be the key.
it probably is.
I mean that quite literally. I do IT and all that, so I may be overthinking the problem, and that's a good thing to learn how to not do. So I would love to learn. I suspect it's of some value, because it can't really be as poor as it seems to be for me. But that's another point, that what we get out of it is based on us, not just it.
Well, I often do searches that include the author. That is helpful.
That helps, yeah, for sure. So I'd like to talk about that. That is not to say that the museum archives are not a valuable source. For our interest, it's probably the single most valuable source, a single site. But there are better ways to search it, and we'll talk about that. Broad, overarching, probably overgeneral comments to make, but I will anyhow. The more specific the thing you're searching for, the more likely you are to get it.
Yeah.
Essentially all the engines these days, unless you do special things, ignore words like a, and, the, but, to, for, stuff like that. They're essentially ignored. They're literally removed from the search before they do it, because the addition of those words doesn't help that to find anything. When you do a search, and I toyed with actually going to live to do it, but it's so easy to get distracted, I won't. When you do a search, the first thing you should look at is not what is the first item you found, I mean, unless it happens to be the one you're looking for, but look at the metadata of the results, and they're different from engine to engine, so I'll talk more about Google here. the first thing, when Richard and I talk about this, one of the things that's very common is his answer is, I got 4,700,922 hits. It's got to be in there somewhere, but I'm not going to look at all of them, damn it. If you do a search and you get 4 million hits, it probably means that your search target was not specific enough.
Part of the issue might be how you define a duplicate. I define a duplicate when I click and I get a screen, I click over here, I get the same screen, I click over here, I get the same screen.
true.
As far as I'm concerned, it's a duplicate. Is that
Well,
wrong?
It's not a right or wrong, it's a matter of what is a duplicate. Multiple pages, I mean, a lot of pages are dynamic, they're not static documents that you go to. These days, many pages, many websites intercept the search target and construct a dynamic page built to respond to your search target. That's why when you search for a Casio 419GL, you find websites that say, searching for the Casio 419GL here, and then it sends you off to buy a different kind of product or something. But they got your page, they got you to go to the page, and they got paid for exposing stuff to you. So there are dynamic things happening that can lead you to the same page, even though they're different, technically different pages that you hit, and they're just redirecting it. When I say the metadata, one of the things I mentioned is the number of search hits. Look at if you're doing a search for something relatively specific and you see that there's 97 hits, it's probably a pretty well-crafted search. It means there's 97 things, probably something in there you need. If you hit it 1 million, it probably means what you're looking for is way too general, or the way you crafted what you're looking for is too general. There's other things you can do in Google at the very top, which a lot of people never notice, is there are what they call tabs. They're not tabs in the browser sense, but they're categories of results. All items, photo items, video items, news items, that immediately filters by the type of the data that you're looking for. So sometimes somebody will post something in the forum about a kind of machine I never even heard of. First thing I'll do to go to Google is put that in, and then hit the images page, and it will show me just pictures of what this thing is, which sometimes, it's one of those, or this or that. So sometimes that's far more productive than clicking through the 27 links to get to the one that happened to have a picture. Go ahead. The young man in the corner.
I'm looking for a 2N107 transistor. Okay? That's a very specific thing.
Okay.
And I get back all kinds of other numbers. Is that somebody trying to sneak in? Is it
No,
from the
but
transistor?
2N10 could appear in many different kinds of pages. There could be a page that says something in the word transistor. Remember, it doesn't know what you're looking for. It's finding any web page that has what you specified on the web page.
Okay, then I put the whole thing in quotes.
So, yeah, there are ways to control it. We're going to talk about that.
Sometimes I search for the word on the page, because it's a long page,
Yep.
and it says not found.
That's more about aged pages. The stuff that was crawled no longer exists because the pages were dynamic or aged out.
Yes, yeah.
So that can happen. So within the search engines, the index that's built really only has a valid life of a certain amount of time until it's re-indexed, but the hit is still there. So all you're really knowing is the last time it indexed that page, there was something there that had it, but it may not now. My kind of metric of how good your results are, and if you should keep looking or ask again, is really if you haven't found something that's close to what you need in the first 2 or maybe 3 pages, then I would say refine your search in different ways we'll talk about. There's not much point in going to page 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 unless what you're looking for is highly specific, like maybe some particular math theory and it's been well researched and documented by many people over a long time. Then it may be worth going through that many pages because there is enough relevant content. But more than likely, you can get more focused answers by refining the search. One trend that has happened, the stuff in red here are examples, is as things like Siri and the others have come along, they have tended to make the parsing of the question that you're asking more conversational. So most people tend to just put the words, the key words, they decide themselves. Part of the problem in searching is people decide how stuff is stored and which keywords to put. But one of the things I do, I work on service computers, one of the things I do is there's certain kind of computers I've never seen before, and I used to search by model number, by serial number, and other things, and I've learned YouTube is a gold mine in this area. Go in and search with how to repair HP 41 posts. A lot of people would start with HP 41 and broken post and, repair, whatever. Just go right with how to repair it. And I guarantee you, I've checked them all, so I'm sure. If you just do that, you'll find a page that tells you how to repair HP 41 posts.
Now, do you think they would have for repair how to fix?
Yes, there are. You can repair. I found for what I do, repairing. I found it more effective for finding what I'm looking for. But this is maybe a bad example because it's such a broad problem that there's a lot of ways. HP 41 broken posts will also get you 10,000 hits, kind of thing. That's why. But if you put an HP 41 broken post, you'll get a lot of web pages that say, "God damn that HP! They built me a machine 40 years ago that broke." No help there on how to fix it. That's why I focus on what I want to do, and that's why I say make them conversational. All of these have brought very useful results. This was a really good one when I was making this presentation. Best tips for searching on Google. Here's some examples. If you have a particular phrase which you know is contained in the thing you're searching for, put that exact phrase in quotes and search for it. I'm a NASCAR fan, and I was listening to a race when I was working on this, and one of the things that came up, they were talking about Dale Jr. going into a corner, blah, blah, blah. And the phrase was used, corner entry too tight. So I typed it in. Corner entry too tight without quotes, 2.7 million hits. Corner entry too tight with quotes, 4 hits. And it got the link I was looking for. Really lucky, I got to tell you. It was a very lucky opportunity that this happened this way, but it makes the point very well.
Yeah, well, ignore words like is and so on.
When it's in quotes, no.
Okay, so.
When it's in quotes, no.
You have
Though I've
more
been told that
introduced to-
Google will do that. It will still sometimes ignore extra words. It'll throw out the extra words and still consider it a hit.
Like if the corner entry is too tight,
Right.
well, I wonder if it'll find that.
Now, you don't always know an exact phrase in the thing you're looking for, because if you did, presumably you'd know enough about it or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can usually get, you may not go from 2.7 million to 4, but you might go from 100,000 to 400 or something. So it's a valuable technique. In the past, in Google, you could do this with a plus in front to force them to only include results that included that word, because you all discovered sometimes a website will return a page that doesn't have one of the things you're looking for. And we'll talk about that in a minute too. They've deprecated that because plus got used for Google Plus so that they can be the next big Facebook and this and that. So what you do is you include it, and this in another. You don't only search for this, but if I'm looking for pages about the dead, but I only want to know how they're being discussed in the context of jam bands, I can just put in Grateful Dead. That doesn't necessarily have to be in quotes, but that is. So that, again, filters the entire thing. So this searches for any page that likely includes Grateful Dead, but must have jam band exactly that way in the search.
Is it possible that there's a setting that allow plus? Because I just typed in corner entry too tight with a plus in front of each word, not in quotes, and it only got 103 hits. I think plus is supported.
They announced, it wouldn't be the first time, but Google announced that it was deprecated. Use quotes instead. Although that's an interesting data point. So those 4 words with pluses got how many?
103 total.
Well, quotes is better.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing to try.
It's not 2 million.
If you don't know the exact quote, then that's a good technique. So that's a good point. If you don't know the exact full sentence or full quote, plussing all the words seems to certainly help somewhat with that. So I guess it's exaggerating, saying it's not.
certificate means it's gonna be time, some point in the future, so it's not.
Well, they said it was, when they wrote, when Google Plus came out as beta, they said, you know how Google's vague and all that kind of stuff. I think Google Mail is still in beta technically or something, but they said that they were going to, but they never said when or whatever, but it was years ago.
Yeah, certification can be years.
So I don't know, I didn't, when I was playing with Plus, I wasn't using this example, so I'm glad you did because it's a good data point. If you are looking for something, the tendency, as I've said, is to, be more and more and more and more specific. Well, you can get too specific. Another interest of mine is German armor. And so I was looking about how Zimmermann was a paste that was put on German tanks so that mines could be put on them. So I was doing a search for Sturmgeschütz Zimmermann paste, and I was finding things on the topic of how to overspecify. And so it turns out that there's lots and lots of pages that talk about Sturmgeschütz Zimmermann paste, but none that include the word apple. So what Google is telling me right here in the results is this is the first hit. This one is missing the word apple. This one is missing the word apple, etc. So if you overspecify with a word that essentially hits nothing, instead of just throwing the result away, saying you hit nothing, it says there's lots of results, but none of them include this word. So you probably tried to overspecify, so just toss that out. You can also use or for something if you're searching for this or that and something else. So if I'm trying to understand if RPN is superior to algebra, pages whose discussion is RPN superior to algebraic or superior to chain, you can just construct it this way rather than doing two separate ones and get both sets. You can also use define, which is saying to Google, find me web pages that define these terms. So if you get a new term, and obviously this aligns a little bit closer with technical, but others as well. If you say, somebody, it's your first time here, you never dealt with, you don't know who Bill Wicks is, and somebody says, synthetic programming is the bee's knees, I got to do it. You go to Google and put in, search for define synthetic programming. It so happens that this link points to a page in the museum site all about Bill Wicks' book. But it's a useful thing for, what is that thing? So if you just put it in without define, you'd get a lot of different things that have the word synthetic up here and programming down there about DNA research or whatever. So how do you exclude words? I'm a deadhead and saw an article about a bass that Phil Lesh, the bass player, had. So I want to point out that this is fish with an F, not a PH. For those in the audience that even get that. If you're going to do a search, I wanted to do a search on Phil Lesh's electric bass, but this is also bass. So I didn't want results about a bass here, I wanted the bass. So you just simply minus the thing that you want absolutely excluded from your search terms.
If Phil Lesh had an electric bass, wouldn't you want to know?
Well, that's a consideration I hadn't. No. It would destroy the image a little bit in my mind, but it's a good question. Another very effective tool is to limit the search to a particular site. And as I mentioned, the HP Museum is a very rich site. Probably most people in here have discovered this, but if you haven't, you can limit the search to a site, to a given website, by including the word site, and then the place that you wanted to search. So if I want to know about N-size batteries as it pertains to a 41, this is the kind of thing you would search, as opposed to getting price lists from every battery manufacturer that's ever made them and so forth.
Would you need the word size?
Maybe not. Maybe not. Probably not. I mean, it worked. But so, I can't fully pick the words, so I got to think about it for a minute. There was something else that was N, I don't remember. But as it pertained, maybe it was NICAD, N was used for NICAD or something, and I was really focused more on N size, not N for NICAD.
I would say N cell.
You would, but most people would search for batteries, not cells.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing, should have said this at the beginning, one thing we all have to consider is we're not normal. And that's a key thing to keep in mind when talking about these, how do normal people search for normal things? It may not apply. Another similar, a related topic, is you can ask Google to search for things on other pages that you know are on pages that you know. Like, is a place I always go for information about something. Dead.net is the website for the dead, for tickets and stuff like that. But other sites, StubHub and others, do it. So you can say, my search is for the fall tour dates, related dead.net means search on sites that are topically related to dead.net. I can't answer how it decides what is related, but I know that it works. So if you're usually using a source that you're used to and comfortable and you understand, but you can't find what you need there, you can let Google decide what's related. And it works an amazing percentage of the time. It's much more effective than just, I don't know where else to look. You can also use wildcards. So if you were wondering, is Tim here? To blow a perfectly good line. If you were wondering what was the best calculator, printer, and hiring decision HP ever made, you could construct a search, best wildcard ever made by HP, and it will return any page that has that phrase with anything holding that place. So it's a wildcard in the standard PC PC searching sense, which is useful not that often, but occasionally. It's not something you'll use a lot, but when you need it, it's very, very powerful because it saves tremendous amounts of searching. And you can use any combination of all these things in any way you want. They're all legal, they're not specific to just searching that thing. So here's a search similar to what I did when I was fixing a 9114. I'm going to search for any page that has floppy disk or disk, because back then it was trendy to spell it with a C. I didn't care about 5 1/4 inch disks. I only wanted 3 1/2, so I was ignoring that. And I'm searching on hpmuseum.star, which is combining the site with the wildcard, because in this particular case, hpmuseum.org and hpmuseum.net in Australia are both sites that have this kind of relevant information. Probably a corner case created to make the slide good. I would maybe go with that. But the point is you can use any and all of these search terms combined in any way. The Wayback Machine, its official name, the Internet Archive, is a site that stores old sites for you to go get stuff that used to be in a site that you knew and loved. There are a lot of, if you search around and talk to people, there are a lot of stories that it's Google doing this to manipulate and only certain things are being archived that are politically, it's trash. It's a 501c3 organization, it's independent. No doubt the players involved do try to influence things, but it's if you haven't used it, it's a marvelous resource and there's really no politics or anything else. I do have a question about this I'll get to.
But they do have fixed rules of what they do include.
Today, well, let's get on that side road right now. Today, stuff gets included based on a request from anyone. You sign up, you become a member, and you can then upload any website that you own and have access to the content and these sorts of things. In the early days, that wasn't the way it worked, and I do not know, and I'd love to know if anyone knows, how was the decision made of which sites to be included back in 1995? Does anyone, Jake, do you know? Does anyone know? Back then, Jeremy?
They basically tried to include everything, and they had, I think it was kind of bumpy. They run stuff.
But I mean, their objective was get it all?
Yeah.
Yes. Because, obviously, there weren't nearly as many websites in 1995, so getting it all is a different problem than it is today. But there's stuff from that period that I guess I'll say the stuff I was surprised that I did find from really obscure sites that were tiny and small, and others from much larger that weren't. And I don't know if maybe their modus operandi, you may hit lawyers or something like that, I don't know.
Isn't a website something that's public domain?
No.
Now, there may be content that's copyrighted on the website, but the fact that anybody can type in and see it, it's sort of like walking down the street and taking a picture of a house.
Felix, we need to have a side session.
The website is nothing but
There's an
content.
issue there. For example, some companies want to take all
But there are
PDF
certain-
files because that's prior art, and they
That's
want
a
to
dinner
remove it.
discussion that we have to have.
There's Wayback Machine is heavily used
Yeah.
to find prior art.
For sure.
Sure.
In fact, is content from the Wayback Machine considered?
Their decision, at least in Germany, there are court decisions about that, because you can alter these documents to some extent, but it really depends on the specific
Well,
case.
I
Like,
know
if
if you
it-
find
if it
that
looks
one
good-
document that proves the case, no, but if you find 30
if it's
documents.
exactly, like,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
it's contributing that, it fits in the whole picture, then I think it's accepted by courts. But companies do go back to this Wayback archive setup, please remove that. Or there might be some litigation going on, there might be some information, because or personal information, some of the pictures, they want to remove of individuals.
Yeah, the privacy, I was gonna bring that up. Privacy standards back, 30 years ago are very different than they are today. Remember the telephone book you used to have with everyone's phone and address and everything around you, back when that was a good thing? The internet was kind of the same, but they're very good about publishing. If there's anything here that should be removed, contact us. It's easy to do, it's not a difficult process. Yeah.
Sorry. The Communications Act of 1934, 40 years ago, said that because a radio signal is broadcast into the public, anybody could receive it and listen to it. That was
Well,
legal. Then time went on. In addition to that, however, again, maybe for privacy concerns, while I may hear a broadcast, I may not repeat information of the broadcast to another party. Now, the law says you may not hear it.
Well, I am not a lawyer, thank you. No disrespect. But one of the key differences, websites you seek, radio goes out unmanaged. Radio is broadcast everywhere. There is no management of it.
Yeah, once you release a signal, it's gone. It's out of your
Yeah,
control.
it's gone. The people in Saturn are getting it and this and that. Well, not anymore, but website legally, I went to find something is different than it came to me. So that's one of the reasons. But I suspect, the courts aren't done dealing with these issues.
Oh, yeah,
And it
sure.
will continue for a long time. The point of all this is that why is it called the Wayback Machine? Did anyone know before reading this slide?
Yeah.
Way back.
How many people were fans of Mr. Peabody? Right? All right, that's what I want to see. How many remembered it was called Fractured Fairy Tales?
Oh, yeah.
All right, I can work with this group.
This is an old crowd.
For those who are wondering what we're laughing about, there was a cartoon on in the 60s every week of a professor who was actually a beagle, and he had a pet boy, Sherman, and he had created. I'm sorry?
The dog and his boy.
Yeah, but his boy Sherman was referred to as his pet, and he invented the Wayback Machine. So each week they were able to use the Wayback Machine to go back to some point in time to study history, always ending in a remarkably horrible pun. Jackie, your material. So if you got a few minutes and you have an internet connection, go to YouTube and search for Wayback Machine for this. It's worth seeing. They're all worth seeing. Some stats. It has over 300 billion. This was dated. Over 300 billion web pages archived. 30 petabytes, which was also an old number. You can, again, assuming you have the rights to the information, and they verify, you can ask, I can't go in and say, msn.com, I want you to archive that, it's mine, it's not gonna work. You have to be somewhat patient with it, and you have to be not expecting to get what you want the first time you try, and I'm gonna go into a bit of UI in just a second. The real point is that it's a valuable resource if you're willing to be a little patient. It's a little persnickety, but it gives you access to stuff that isn't anywhere else, that you can't find anywhere else, so it's worth the extra effort. Jake's going to talk tomorrow about HPCalc, so I just thought I'd use that example just to give you some insight of that, how would I look at that? So I go to the Wayback Machine, and I type in www.hpcalc.org, and it comes back and it shows me years. And the number of bars is the number of hits from the beginning of the year towards the end of the year of how many sets of data were archived in that year. As I said on a slide but didn't say out loud, the nature of the internet is it's constantly changing. So what website has today, what HPCalc's website had in June of one year is not what it had in July. So the system was tending to archive the same site many, many times based on how often it updated. And I don't know the metrics of how they chose that. And obviously a news site or something like that probably wasn't being done. But this is saying in '96, there were, and it didn't come out in the screen grab, but in '96, at the end of the year, what it would show is, it's because I only have April, I cut off the end of the year. What it shows is like a circle on the date, saying this is when the archive was grabbed, this day. And basically you just click on that date, so I'm saying I want to see what was archived on June 5th, that was highlighted, you click it, and it brings you the page. That's what was on hpcalc.com, that page. Now, from here, often you can get the front page for sure. Often you can't get sub-pages, and I can't answer why. Jake said he had much better success looking for this. When I was doing some of this, because I wanted to get some stats to throw up, I was maybe short on time, maybe short on attitude, I don't know, but I was finding, several of them that I tried, I could get the front page and maybe one of these sub-pages, but not others. So you can't always get everything, but it's well worth spending the time trying. It's not like Google or one of those where I'm looking for what HPCalc had on the catalog number 73 on that day. You're not going to find that probably, but you're going to find what was on the site around then, which may give you more information about what other things to look for, extrapolated into non-calculator things. Any question about that? Was that too weird? eBay. Everyone here has spent time and effort on eBay. So these are some of the things I've learned searching for stuff on eBay. Or is specified with the microphone. Sorry, Jake.
That would be $1,500.
That was a good one.
You broke it, you bought it.
I'll hold it.
That's the wrong.
What, you broke the
No,
clip?
the clip, it just popped out.
Yeah, but you got a car charger.
Mhm.
Isn't that a car charger?
Better not be.
Oh.
If it is, it's Jake's.
Oh, that's what that is. I don't know.
If I'm looking for this or that, like I want to find an HP41C or a CV or CX, you specify the ORD things in parentheses. So this is going to search for any of those. Similar to what we talked about in some of the others, use a minus to specify not something. I'm looking for HP 75, but I don't want to hear about 75 horsepower motors. Misspelling are a common way to find things that you might, likely might not otherwise find. Sometimes very good things that are not done well. A good example, I think, can somebody help me here? Is that the way you would say spell manual in Spanish?
Manuel.
Okay, it better be, because that's the way a lot of them do. So if I want to get an original Spanish manual for the Prestige, you can search that way because someone that had it probably would spell it that way rather than the English way, because it probably on the cover is spelled that way. On eBay, there are all these, again, metadata tools where you can specify, I only want to see new items. I only want to see items in this price range. I only want items in the United States, or if it matters, within 80 miles of where I am. And so you can specify these different things to narrow the search. You can also have any listing, auction only, or buy it now. So if you're not interested in bidding, you only want to buy the thing, just do that, and it usually filters the majority of the items out. You can combine them, just these other things, just as I said before. So this is a search I've done way too many times. Hewlett with an I, by the way, is a very common misspelling for Hewlett. So I'm looking for HP75 stuff. So I'm going to look for any listing that has HP or Hewlett and 75C or 75D. HP makes an ink called 75, so I don't want to see those. And Yamaha has made so many 75 horsepower parts you can't imagine. So I've learned to filter that. So, yep.
You can also say minus, parentheses, words with commas behind and close parentheses, and we'll exclude all those words.
So instead of minus A, minus B, minus C, minus A, comma B,
Yeah.
minus parentheses.
It's the same thing as you do with parentheses, but
Yeah.
you put minus before.
Okay, I didn't know that. So it kind of comes down to your time. Some people's reaction to this is, cool, I can outbid Bob next week. Other people's reaction is, that's way too complicated. I'd rather just put HP75 and click next, 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 next. So it's not good or bad, it's a matter of how you see approaching it, and some things that you may do it. Some useful translations for people that are new or getting more acquainted. MIB is usually used, is often used. That stands for mint in box. EUC is excellent used condition. Near mint is, it isn't mint, but I want to charge more, so I'm going to call it near mint. I don't know how to test this means I verified it's broken, but I'm not going to say that, so don't waste your time unless you're looking for parts.
Yeah.
There's a couple of other ones, by the way,
Please.
that's on eBay. Yeah, rare means nothing whatsoever.
Right.
And also, it powers up means nothing whatsoever. Maybe it means that when they plugged it in, smoke didn't come out of it, but it really doesn't tell you any more than that, and it doesn't even necessarily tell you that.
How about it turns
Blow
on?
the fuse.
It turns on is the same as it powers up.
It turns on by itself in the middle of the night without you touching it.
No, it turns on, but I don't know how to test it.
Yeah.
It means.
Yeah, or there no power adapter available is another comment. I threw it away to hide the fact that the ACT is blown.
How about
Yeah.
works good?
No,
Yeah.
and sometimes they have a power source, they have an AC, but they don't have a battery, I can't test it.
Which also means that the ACT
Yeah.
is blown.
Because they plugged it in.
Question, you have here HP Hewlett and then in the second pair of brackets 75.
Yep.
Can you make 3 brackets?
Oh, as much as you want.
Okay.
So, but
So
it
internally he will multiply this out
Yeah.
and make all the possible combinations.
yep, yeah, absolutely. So
Because
it's going to
this-
find
this
anything
becomes quite huge.
with this, one of these and that, or this, and so all the combinations, and it does slow the search. I got to say, it does slow the search from instantaneous to damn near instantaneous, but it does slow it. You can tell the difference if you do it. But it makes searching for stuff you waste a lot less time going past things that, there's a baseball player who, his baseball card number is HP87. There's just a bunch of trivia I've learned searching for things. Jake, the machine did not break.
A lot of things say works good.
Yeah, and you sent a note saying it's worked well, it's not going to work.
Well, usually these things actually do at least mean that it has mass and occupies space. That much is normally guaranteed.
I will tell you though, for those that it matters to, in the calculator, what it comes down to is any active seller on eBay knows that HP calculators are hotly sought after and collectible and react accordingly. A lot of people selling HP Series 80 in computers, not so much. So if you see an HP Series 80 and it just says, turns on, I don't know, it can be a very different thing than in the calculator world. I got an HP 87 for $100. Everything worked perfect. He just didn't know and he didn't care. It was just, it was worth $100 to not have to go to the dump bin.
Also, some things they leave out, if they're 41 and they don't show a picture of the battery terminals.
Right.
Or ask for.
I can tell you there's sellers all over eBay that when they see my questions come, like, damn it, he's at it again. Can you add a picture of this and that, or this and that? But yep. I'm done. As far as a structured presentation. Does anyone have anything, Jeremy?
Yeah, so,
I can make it by 5, but you can't have that 15 minutes.
Come here.
And you may have noticed that the paradigm of searching has changed every sort of 5 years or suddenly things work differently now. All these things which come up all the time, like searches.
It's changing all the time.
Sure, yeah.
It's constantly changing in ways that make them maximize their advertising more than ways to make it easy for us, right?
Yeah.
So everything here is true and works now. It may not be true in 6 months. But more than likely, these things won't change much. But the real point here is try some of this stuff. It definitely beats the heck out of page 14 and looking down and so forth. I'd like to know other tips people have.
You can also use key, they're called like SEO types, so like in title, colon, in text,
Yeah.
colon, in URL, colon, along with file type, colon. And if you embed those in there, you can start avoiding those meta tags that are embedded in the HTML page.
To avoid, yeah.
And so on. So if you go out there and just look for search engine optimization, it'll start telling you all these things you can put in the title bar that help narrow it down.
I originally had some of that in here, but decided that it's probably not relevant to what we're talking about searching for. But some of that stuff is very relevant for finding other things. Things that the websites have deliberately decided that you shouldn't be searching for is what that's really good for.
You had a blurb about privacy earlier.
Yeah.
I really would suggest most of us here, if you haven't already, start considering a VPN to at least encrypt your web traffic from your computer or laptop, especially if it's Wi-Fi, of course, in any public place. We were doing something last night in this hotel. Connecting to something that requires a password is probably a bad idea, unless you've got a VPN, because you don't have any clue who's sniffing the air looking for your stuff.
Well, if it's an HTTPS site, it'll be encrypted anyway.
And not from your, that can be broken. Man in the middle, you catch HTTPS, I thought. Otherwise,
It's a broken cipher.
but, I mean, and if you're picking a VPN, do your research, because some of them keep logs of what the subscribers do and go to, which they hand right over to the authorities. It may not be that you're doing something wrong, but if somebody else is using that site, you want to just mail your stuff to the government every day if you want.
Or Equifax.
Who knows, right? So just give that a thought. I really learned that strongly when I was in China in the hotels.
So
VPN was a way of life.
Matt, security researcher Matt Blaze points out that actually anybody that wants to can fully opt out of Equifax having their information by simply never participating in the economy in any way.
The trivial solution. Hang on, Dave, you were going to say that?
Oh, I was going to say a nice way to get good prices on stuff is to look for things that have either been misspelled or miscategorized.
Yeah.
So if you see an HP41 in farm equipment, go look. It might be a real HP41. It's just been put in farm.
And there's other versions of that. There's a lot of HP41s that are listed as HP14, why the dyslexic sellers, I don't really know.
Or TI 41s.
Dyslexics of the world untied.
So there's a lot of that. So depending on what you're looking for, you have to kind of have a plan to just how ludicrous you want to get. Sometimes it's varied for me, and sometimes it's been productive.
I'm looking for, let's say, an HP 41 owner's manual.
Okay.
And the only thing I want back are PDF files.
I actually had a chart, but a line, but it was too big for the chart. Include the word PDF in your search.
I still get JPEGs and other crap all the time.
Well, the internet doesn't tune to your needs. But the important thing to remember is the word PDF is on the page that it delivered to you. It may not be.
Isn't there a file type you can specify?
Yes, but that doesn't. Not all pages are built with that in it.
Richard, try a dot PDF.
Yeah. But that may not work either.
That does pretty good. Better than just PDF.
Yeah. But it will also return pages that say this manual is not available in PDF.
Yeah.
So that qualifies. But for a first approximation, I mean, I don't look for manuals that don't say PDF. I mean, I'm not looking unless I'm looking to buy a manual or something. But that cuts it down a lot. Another thing is a lot of results come back as actual links to PDFs, which can be problematic. So right-click Save As is usually better than clicking on it and getting into browser nonsense. Yep.
Something I would mention, especially for eBay, once you've crafted this beautiful glittering gem of the search, you can have eBay run it for you automatically and send you an email if they find it.
One of my goals here is to not build stronger competition. So we can't. No, you're right.
Yes.
No, you're right. But if you're on eBay, you probably already know you can save it, and it will send you an email every day with everything new since yesterday that meets that criteria. I waste hours deleting that every day.
Just about Richard's question. If you type into Google HP 41 manual in URL :PDF, the top 10 hits are all PDFs of the HP 41
File
manual.
type, :
File type?
File type, yeah.
Oh, yes, that's even better.
Well, yeah, it won't find them all, but for the people that make sites by the rules and all that, it definitely is there.
Both of them.
Yep.
Bob, it's not a search tip, but most of the people, or a lot of the people who sell old Hewlett-Packard calculators and other calculators from other manufacturers are doing for yard sales. And they bought it at a yard sale or antique
Estate
house or
sale.
something. So they
We don't call them
know a lot
yard sales
about
if we're
them.
selling. It's an estate sale.
They don't know a lot about them. Last year sometime I saw one for an old Victor calculator, and the lady said, I tested it with the multiplication problem and it didn't work. When I pressed the equal sign, it didn't work. So I'm selling it for parts. And I knew from experience that equal sign is not used for
Of
the
course it
multiplication
won't
problem on a calculator, only for...
So do you own that now?
I do. Yeah, I paid $10 for it.
That was the VS 230, right?
Mech 2. After Mech 2.
In a Google search, can you say something near something? I know there were some search engines that use the word near if you wanted two words that were near each other.
And like the spelling is
No,
near?
the position
No, I mean
in the
position.
in the
other
line.
words, one wasn't up here, another one was down.
I won't say no. All I'll say is I don't know about that.
some
But one of the
certain-
samples I used earlier was Google search tips. What are best Google search tips? Whenever you're going to look at anything like that, always look at a few results because nobody has all the good stuff. One thing off topic I wanted to mention, there's a page in the handout or in the envelope of a guy, Jerry, who I ran into through eBay, who many years ago had a repair business, got out of it and went on with life, and he's recently retired and he's back doing it, and it includes things like installing a CL board, repairing 41 posts, and so when I asked him some of the basic questions, yep, so he knew all the things, and he's very professional in the sense of he'll walk you through, the things to check, because if anyone here is open to 41 ever, you can have a 41 that feels like a lovely machine and everything's great. You open it up and then you're left with parts. You didn't do anything wrong, it's just the nature of how stuff breaks. Fixing stuff like that. So I asked him, I kind of cajoled him, well, if you're going to do this, You got a bunch of people here that are prime customers for the information, so that's why that page is in there. If you have good or bad feedback, share it with us. You know, put it on the, you know, like if you have something done and it's great, go to the museum or something. Just let people know. Also, I saw 2 days ago, Adam Jones on eBay, jones.sebago.lake, who has been fixing things for years, mostly for him to sell. I've been telling him, if you fix this stuff, why don't you offer to fix it? And he finally went and posted on there that I do these kind of repairs and these sorts of things.
He's selling a lot of stuff too right now.
Yeah.
He's put a lot of stuff up on eBay.
Come here.
Actually, reasonable prices, not the Phantom Blue prices.
Well, his common, it's not Garboco prices. His common stuff is very reasonably priced. The rare stuff, not so much, but it's rare, so, you know.